Spring has sprung, but the snow keeps flying. The tennis squad was able to take the courts twice this season so far, and we are privileged to have Athletic Director Kurt Walrath join us again to talk spring sports and more. Sports Night is next.
Yes, we are here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sportsnight. I'm Joe Young,
and I'm Howard Shapiro. I had to take my snow pants off before we got here. It's eventually we're gonna have some sports outside.
Hard to believe by looking outside that that one team at least was able to get in a couple of events before the record-setting blizzard over the weekend. It's also a little hard to believe that with a slow start to the spring season, we haven't missed a week here on Sportsnight.
We're that good. We are that good. We find entertainment for everybody.
It may mean that Howie's doing a little song and dance next week.
I've got it set
just to keep it going, but we're trying to keep it interesting. And the tennis team, like Howie mentioned in the intro, they did get out and get a couple of matches in. Unfortunately for this young Cardinal team, they had to start with perennial power Elk River on Tuesday of last week. They lose that one 7-0. Almost everybody, everybody getting beat in straight sets. The other four matches were all 6-0, 6-0. So they only won 8 games through the 7 matches, but really a good idea, of what, where they have to be one of those top teams, both in the Northwest Suburban and in the section.
When you're playing Elk River, you have an opportunity to learn just exactly where you need to improve, and they did. I'm sure, we talk about it all the time with Coach Stork, that by the end of the season, things are not always the way they were in the beginning of the season because he shuffles his lineup very well to get the best team and the best effort out of his guys and girls.
And this team is really quite unique because they have so many kids. They've added an extra team. They're bringing in extra coaches to make sure that they're not cutting anybody. They got like 45 kids out. They're going to have 4 teams, which I think is so cool that, Coach Stork, rather than saying, well, I've got 3 teams, that's, 30 kids, he said, no, you know what? You guys want to play tennis? We're going to find a way for you to play tennis.
Great, love it.
And keeping them involved. And at the top of that, you have a varsity team that really only has 1 returning varsity player, maybe 2. So a lot of youth, a lot of new kids, and a lot of young players getting into the varsity lineup right away, and that's exciting.
Well, and this will be the challenging thing for Coach Stork is to take all those young players and determine where their strengths are, whether they're in singles or in doubles, and just work that correct lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, about 24 hours before the blizzard descended upon the Metro, Cardinals opened their home schedule with a visit from Totino Grace on Thursday. The Eagles aren't the same kind of powerhouse as the Elks, so this was a better barometer of what the Cardinals' young squad is really made of. And they took advantage of the opportunity with 5 players earning their first varsity win. Andrew Argyros back in the lineup for the Cardinals in first singles, and the captain set the tone perfectly. Great lob over his opponent to earn game point right there. Argyros wins in straight sets 6-2, 6-2. Exchange student Kerman Aratuntene Edme in the far court at second singles. He gets Tyler Mayo to hit into the net for the point. Lost in a super tiebreak 3-6, 7-5, 9-11. Caden Carey serving at third singles. The return is long. Carey gets his first varsity win. Relatively easy, 6-0, 6-2. Similar story at fourth singles. Nick Yang covering a lot of court on the far side. His opponent mishits. Yang on his way to a 6-0, 6-4 win. Tyler Hewitt and Liam Speltz teaming up at first doubles for the Cardinals. They'll earn another straight sets win, downing the Eagles duo 6-3, 6-2. A longer point than the script, apparently. But there it is.
Yep.
And a nice win for them. Freshman Derek Avery serving for the Cardinals in second doubles. He and partner Austin Hansen looked really strong. Avery getting most of the action on this point. Finally, on this hit right here, we'll get it past the Eagles, get the point, but they lose a heartbreaker in a super tiebreak, 6-7, 6-3, 9-11. Nick Terabeza and Noah Stein in the far court for third double. Stein gets the winner down the line in the return. They win 6-1, 6-2. Cards win 5-2. Both of their losses coming in 11-9 super tiebreaks.
Yeah, you look at that. It could have been a 7-0 sweep had it gone the other way, obviously. So some good tennis, bouncing back well after that loss to Elk River.
4 of the 10 hockey players. Just going to throw it out
you
there.
can throw that
no,
out there.
5 of the 10. All right,
Look
I almost forgot Argyros, obviously.
Don't forget Argyros.
A goaltender.
Yes.
So
how could you forget a goaltender?
Half of the varsity lineup in that match, hockey players. So the Cardinals hoping to host a quad match with Blaine, Spring Lake, Park, and Forest Lake on Friday.
Correct.
They've been out. They've been shoveling.
It's a two-day process.
The sun is helping dramatically.
Yes.
Hoping that there isn't the snow that's predicted midweek. That might delay things, but they're hoping, keeping their fingers crossed. And we here at CTN are doing the same because we are going to try and be there at least for the last of their 3 matches on Friday.
Yeah, we should. And I was up on the roof earlier with the Doppler trying to get a good survey of what the weather's going to be. And I think we're just, if we get anything, it's going to be either a dusting to an inch at the most. And I think they talked about a storm earlier or later in the week, and I think they called that off. So
yeah, you heard it here first. And by the way, you need to blame the weatherman for last weekend's snow-nami.
Yeah,
That's Shapiro.
You can go ahead.
All right. Well, we've wrapped up, unfortunately, all the sports action we've had so far for the spring season so far. And now we like to welcome in Activities Director Kurt Walrath. Kurt, thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, you guys.
No question. We talked about it in the preview show a couple of weeks ago. The added strain, everybody obviously disappointed, but the added strain this puts on you and Tammy Cardinal in particular in the administration office, trying to reschedule everything.
Definitely. I mean, it's a 2-part reschedule too. It's the practice times for one. I mean, unfortunately, we have kids in our field house and different places till 10 o'clock at night, getting a little bit of time in, and it's not the quality practice time that we would hope, but it's better than nothing, I think is kind of the way they probably look at it. And then along with that, as you said, all of the scheduling and rescheduling, and then rescheduling of the games that have been rescheduled, that have been canceled. So it is a crazy process. There's a lot of red on that calendar, unfortunately, and we're just hopeful that once we get this going, we'll be able to keep it going. We get a swath of some nice weather, and it rolls through without any more issues.
Not that you don't know the other activity directors in the conference, but I would imagine this is a process for all of you to work hand in hand in terms of developing schedule. Talk a little bit about your interactions with other activity directors and trying to figure all this out.
Definitely. Yeah, and I will say this too, the guys in our conference that have some facilities that we can potentially use, some of the schools that have turf have been really gracious and said, hey, send us your scheduling issues. We'll see if we can get you on our field, even if you're not playing us, which I think is fantastic. I mean, it's just a really collegial group of guys. But, not only the rescheduling piece, but how are we going to do conference championships? How is that going to work? How are we going to try to get it so that, each team and each school has an even number of games or close to that? All these things are things, as a guy who wasn't in this position last year, I didn't think about and consider. But the guys in our league are great. And I think we know we're all in the same boat. And, I think everybody understands that, if we don't work together, this isn't gonna go well at all in the end. So a great group of guys and a huge help.
Yeah, definitely a trial by fire for a first-year activities director. But you talk about, obviously there are going to be, not everybody's going to get every game in. Right. And I know that a lot of the coaches schedule specific non-conference games, typically in the section or with those top-rated teams. At this point, where are you at as far as trying to conserve all of the games, and how many games are we talking losing? Are we going to see teams losing 25% or even more of those non-conference games?
Yeah, that's a tricky piece too, because one of the things we talked about with non-conference is, do we give up some of these dates to keep as possible rescheduled dates for conference games? But then, as you said, with scheduling as it is and coaches wanting to have non-conference games within the section for the purposes of seeding, those games are really important to our coaches and other coaches too. And it's a terrible answer, but I think at this point it's impossible to say. We'd love to preserve as many of these games as we possibly can. We want to make sure kids get the experience that they deserve. But then again, too, sports like baseball, where you also have to think about pitching and pitch count and all those things too. Those are factors as well. And State High School League has made some adjustments in terms of double headers and what they'll allow that will help, but it's so hard to say. And the same is true of the other sports. There's all these little caveats. We know that underneath that snow, there's still frozen ground too. So what does that look like? And even when the snow passes, spring is always rainy anyway. So it's impossible to say, but we're sure going to work hard to preserve as many games as we can. I think, coaches don't like this, but at some point, a lot of the practice time that you enjoy goes by the wayside, and it becomes a string of games, which kids love, but coaches don't so much.
Is there any talk from people maybe at the high school level of pushing back any of the section state tournaments to try and accommodate for more season? Because, it's not necessarily completely uncharted territory, but we're getting to the point where, mid-April and nobody's outside.
Yeah, that's true. We're getting pretty close. No talk yet. I would look for, and I could be wrong, but I think the first thing that might happen would be the high school league opens it up potentially to some Sunday availability and Sunday games. I think that might be the first thing that happens, but you're right. As days go by, Wednesday again, we're supposed to get a little bit, you wonder, I'm sure that's something that's on their minds, and I'm sure it's something that's being looked at. Lots of variables there too with the venue, and is it available and when is it available? But I would imagine that that's something that's at least on the table, though we haven't heard any of it yet.
Talk a little bit about the attitude of the kind of the human aspect of it all. You talk to the coaches. How are these young athletes responding to the fact that they can't get outside and they can't accomplish the goals that they want to when they set out to begin this season?
I think they're doing remarkably well. I think we've got great kids in that regard. I think they realize it's something that's out of their control, and they're making the best of it. And I think our coaches are really doing a nice job of trying to make it fun. Going to different places. I know our girls golf team went to Grand Slam the other day and played a mini golf course, which is the only golf course that's really open right now. But anyway, I think they're doing a nice job of trying to keep it fun and trying to vary some of the practice sites and some of the things that they do. And I know baseball had like a full squad scrimmage in the field house the other day, which was the best they could do. But the kids need that. So yeah. I think the coaches have done a nice job of keeping the kids interested, and I think the kids have been really, really patient and understand that we're going to get there. It's only a matter of time. But I sympathize with them greatly. For seniors especially, you get one shot at your senior year in spring season, and this is not how anybody drew it up, but they've been great. They've been really, really good.
Now, switching gears just a little bit, we talked last week about the decision to forego the varsity season for the boys lacrosse program. Talk a little bit about just kind of what went into that decision.
Yeah, and first of all, it was a really, really difficult call. Something that Coach Weber and I put a lot of time into thinking about and pondering. And really our intention for most of the beginning of the spring, for when practice started, was really to have two teams. But we had some factors, things that we didn't kind of dream would happen, come into play, and stuff that we couldn't really have predicted. And at that point, we were looking at our roster and how much experience do we have, and how many kids do we have on our roster that we really feel like are varsity ready, that we could put on the field and they could develop as a varsity player in the way that Coach wants them to be able to. And in looking at it, we felt like with the kids that we have, we could best develop those kids for the future of the program at the JV level. And that's a hard thing to stomach if you're a senior or a junior or really any year and you're counting on playing varsity, and that's always the dream. But we've had a lot of guys, and our coaches included, that have really sacrificed personal goals and personal dream for the good of the program and the future of the program, which is really remarkable. Putting myself in that situation, I'm not sure that I would have handled it as well as some of our kids have. But yeah, to answer your question, it was a really difficult decision with a lot of thinking. And like I said, we analyzed that roster and looked for, hey, the kids that we have, how can we best develop them, give them the best experience, give them a shot to potentially win some games. And as it turned out, in the thinking, the JV level was the best way to do it.
No, I know we had talked a little bit about this before the show, and you said that especially the seniors really took it. They were disappointed, quite obviously, but they took it well, thinking of the future of the program. Plus the fact that they actually get to play their games at the stadium as a JV team, which helps a little bit as well.
Absolutely. We're going to try to make those games as much of a varsity experience as humanly possible. But yeah, those kids were amazing, and they realized that they're setting the foundation for years to come. And they realize their responsibility is to set the culture of the program, the long-term culture of the program. And unfortunately, in order to do that, this is kind of what it requires. But yeah, I don't think there was any hesitancy from those kids. They asked, whatever you need from us, coach, is what we'll do. And that's what they did, and that's what they're continuing to do. So great group of kids. And when we have 2 teams back, which should hopefully be next year, and we're winning games, which I don't think is going to be very long, we have those kids to thank, really. And they need to understand that they're a big part of what we're doing and the results going forward.
Now, of course, you talk about the future of the program. Is there work with the high school kids towards the lower levels, the CRAA group, to try and really boost the numbers down there? Because as we all know, the more numbers you have at the lower levels, the better your top levels are going to be. Is there what's that like? Has there been any concerted effort, I guess, to kind of go down to those lower levels and try and find ways to get more kids to play at a younger age?
Definitely. I think this kind of situation gave us an idea of what could happen if we're not doing that. And I think we've been looking at 7th and 8th grade classes in particular, and they're really strong. There seems to be a lacrosse culture at the lower grades, at the middle school level, and even at the elementary school level. But I think we also understand that we need to pay more attention to that now than ever. And we will. And I know that Mike has made a real commitment to that, Coach Weber, and I have as well. And we've been in close contact with those that run those programs. And I think the future is bright. I really do believe that. And I think even the immediate future is bright. I think that 8th grade group that'll come in next year, be 9th graders, and then that 9th grade group that's in the building this year, that we're going to count on a lot at the JV level. That's a great way to start building this program. I think those kids are going to be great. And yeah, the future is bright. I don't look for this to happen next year or any other year, at least in the immediate future, that's for sure.
All right, we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. Now, turning the page yet again to something that's very close to your heart, and a big part of the reason why we wanted to bring you in here. Something special you have coming up. It's already kind of going on, but talk about what you have going with the soon-to-be announced in the fall Coon Rapids Hall of Fame.
We're really excited about this. This is a process that we started actually last year. And in thinking about the people who have given so much to our programs and our building through the years, and the best way to honor them and honor their contributions. So we put a committee together last year and sort of started looking at some of the greats in our programs, and we're looking at teachers, we're looking at administrators, we're looking at athletes, we're looking at those that participate in activities, our finest students, academically awarded students, community members, anyone who's ever contributed to our programs are eligible. So what we would really like for people to do is head to our website, submit nominations. It's right on the front page. Please go in, rack your brains, remember those people that you watched as kids or those that were classmates of yours, and think about nominating those people. I know that we have some nominations already from last year. We're going to hang on to those. We're evaluating those as well. But we really wanted to take some time to get that back up there for more people to chime in and nominate. So then that committee will review nominations, make some nominations of their own. And then the plan is, I shouldn't say the plan, this is definitely happening. September 7th of next year will be our second home football game against Forest Lake. Will be our first Hall of Fame induction ceremony at halftime. We're going to have a nice reception in the building at 4 o'clock before the game for all of our new members and their families, and then hoping for something after the game as well. So we're really gonna make it. We're gonna do it right. We're gonna do it up good, and we're hoping that we get a big crowd on that night, a beautiful night. And like I said, it's something I think is a long time coming, and we're really looking forward to giving back to some of the people who gave so much to us and our programs through the years.
I think this is a phenomenal idea, and I'm excited for it too, as being a part of the community and part of the sports scene. So for those who don't know what website you're talking about, maybe just mention that just so they know where they can go.
Right on the Coon Rapids homepage.
Right, okay.
Yep, and in the past, I think last year we had it up on the activities page.
Okay.
But we've got it right on the homepage, and it's also
Great.
on the activity page as well. So you can't miss it. And again, like I said, make sure you're racking your brains. Think about those you watched, those you played with, your own sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters and grandpas. Think about all those people that came through, and we'd love to have your nominations. And I think the more people that we can take a look at and go through, the better that makes this process, and the more fun it is. And I'll tell you what, this committee that we have, really some of the greats of our school sit on that committee, and to hear them tell stories about what they've seen and some of the great athletes and people that came through our building, it's just a really fun process for us to go through it.
Well, one of the things that has always impressed me about the Coon Rapids community, and one of the reasons why I decided to raise my family here, was that the community is so well connected. So many people that went through the high school are still here in the community. Their kids are going to school where they did, or a lot of people who have moved maybe to other communities still come back and are in the community. So this is an opportunity, as you mentioned, for all of those people to stay connected in that community and really help recognize those people who were part of the reason why they wanted to stick around the community.
Absolutely, yeah. For those that stuck around and are still here that we're honoring, we want them to obviously come back. And for those that have gone other places in life and live in other states and other communities, we want them to be proud to come back too. We want to make this a coming home kind of a thing. And you're right. I mean, people here are really connected to our programs and to our athletes in particular and students. And we want to just build that connection even more. And I think this is just the way to do it. And the hope too is, we're undergoing some renovation within our building. And I think at least in the beginning, over the next year or two, we'll have a Hall of Fame that'll be sort of a temporary Hall of Fame with plaques and pictures. But then once we get into the new atrium of the new building, kind of how that looks, it's going to be amazing. It'll be one of the first things we want people to see when they walk in the building, and I think that'll be really cool. I think people will come to the building just to check that out, and that's exactly what we want.
All right. Well, it sounds awesome. So definitely jump on Google, Coon Rapids High School, right on the homepage. Nominate your favorite teacher or administrator or student athlete or just student or maybe the tuba player. I don't know. Definitely get in there and get involved. Kurt, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I appreciate it.
Yep. And we hope to continue to have sports nights. So we hope to have sports, spring sports eventually. That's what we're hoping for right there is tennis on Friday, softball on Tuesday, and then baseball next Friday over at Wintercrest against those Saturday against the Edina Hornets, who
your favorite team next to Southwest.
Hey, if the Cardinals are gonna beat anybody in their limited non-conference schedule, let it be the Hornets. But that's going to do it for this edition of Sportsnight. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us and continuing to support everything we do here at CTN. For the entire crew, including Howie Shapiro, thank you to Kurt Walrath for joining us. I'm Joe Young, saying goodnight.